Hey, welcome everybody to the ShopNotes Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Huber, joined today by John Doyle. Logan is out on assignment. This is episode number 196. In today's episode, we'll answer a couple of listener comments and suggestions, give some updates on stuff going on around here, including a new event that we have happening here in Middle America later this fall. So you want to stick around for that. First, a quick note from our sponsor. This episode of the ShopNotes Podcast is brought to you by Grizzly Industrial, purveyors of fine woodworking machinery since 1983. Buy direct and save at grizzly.com. Purveyors is a word that people don't use enough anymore.
Mm-hmm. Bring it back.
Yeah.
We need to do more purveying. So, yeah. Logan's out, so this should be pretty quick, in and out, 5 minutes. 5-minute podcast today. Give everybody their Fridays back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just a couple of notes from the last episode. New Mexico Dan still bringing up the double table saw option. He says, I have 2 Shopsmiths and an older DeWalt contractor saw. Paid $75 for it in great condition. I mean, it's a strange flex, but whatever.
Yeah.
I use the table saw almost exclusively with a sled for cross-cutting. The Power Pro Shopsmith I use for all other cuts such as ripping, dado, etc., as it's easier to change the setup on, plus it's accurate. The second Shopsmith is used exclusively as a sanding station with a belt sander and a 12-inch disc sander permanently set up. Which, I mean, I get that. Because I think Ted Krylacek had a Shopsmith that he used just as a lathe, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I wonder what the market for used shopsmiths are out there. Like if we can find them locally, or like how far we would have to go to find a used shopsmith. That'd be interesting. We'll put Logan on that.
Right. Yeah, see if we can get
a
couple of extras and put them in his shop there.
Yep.
Noland writes, I have a second table saw for my dado stack. It's in a SawStop job site saw that folds up and stores under the counter and comes out, and I can sit at the end of my SawStop PCS or other location when needed. I'm in a 1-car garage workshop, so space is an issue, and it's out of the way when it's not in use. Which also seems like an interesting idea, but I was wondering, I didn't realize that the SawStop job site saw could take a dado blade.
Yeah. Which is, kind of interesting. Like, depending on what you do, usually, like, for dados and rabbits, it's not usually on particularly long. It's not like ripping a 16-foot board.
Right.
So it's like, would a job site saw be perfect for that?
Yeah.
I guess, like I said, it's depending on what you're making, but it's an interesting take on it.
Yeah. And I thought that was kind of an interesting, the idea of having it on a portable one where you could, just put it up on your saw or just create a temporary space for it. Kind of an interesting idea. I feel like I need to see more of that kind of thing. He actually responded, because I had asked him about that. He said he uses the Freud 8-inch stack and have it set up for 3/4-inch plywood. He's going to let us know how it works for heavier cuts. So stay tuned. And then a Key Smash name says, Logan, stop hating on New York and come to upstate New York and enjoy the Adirondack Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yep.
I had relatives in the Buffalo, New York area, and that was always, I like that. That was tons of fun.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that, like, traveling, you think of, like, the big cities that you go to, but you get outside of that, and it's probably not much different than, like, rural Iowa. Like, Illinois is Iowa other than Chicago. And I'm sure you get outside of New York City, and most of New York is probably similar to Iowa.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I could see that. Just maybe with more hills.
yeah. But Nebraska, they're not like Iowa. They're worse. No. You get out outside of Omaha, they're worse.
They're worse. Yep.
Now I have Nebraska and ShopSmith haters and Intarsia.
And Intarsia.
Who are we today?
Yeah. We're especially spiteful on this day.
Yep.
So, speaking of spiteful, we've been working on a TV show episode doing an outdoor entertainment center, for lack of a better word. We had talked about, it was from Workbench magazine, one of our titles from the before times. And they had built a whole outdoor kitchen complex over several issues. So there were planters, there was a grilling station, table, like a taller table and chairs. The kitchen part that had like a fridge in it and a sink and blah, 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 blah. So we had talked about doing the grill part, but the grill part is fraught for many reasons. One is you're building a wood construction around a grill, which makes people a little jittery to begin with. And I get that. But then they also have, what was it, an insert or a wraparound or whatever to help isolate the grill from any combustible sources. But that ended up being the same price as, or a little bit more than the grill. So that stepped up the cost of it.
Yeah, it's always interesting designing and building projects with two things in mind, which I always try to steer clear of if they get brought up here for the magazine. And that one is adding fire or grills, and the second is adding babies or children. Just not safe. It's not safe.
Yeah.
There's too many rules and laws that change, and liability and
right. Yeah. Yeah, because we had one of our most popular plans on Woodsmith Plans for the longest time was like a baby bed.
Yeah, cradle or
yeah, well, we had that cradle that was really popular also. But then also had the adjustable height baby bed with the little push down side, to be able to make it easier to access your child in the. But then that went through, those kind of designs went through several rounds of revising so that you can't do the drop down sides anymore. And then you can't, there were several other things in there too. So it just made it challenging.
Yeah. And speaking from experience, not with fire, but with children, both of them can destroy your house in a matter of seconds.
Right.
So beware.
Yeah.
Mostly with a granola bar from the children. I don't know how flammable a granola bar is, but
which would be curious to know.
Give a kid a granola bar in the back of your car, total loss. Like, just turn it into insurance at that point.
Sell it for salvage.
Yep.
Yeah. Or goldfish. That's another. Goldfish crackers. It is the snack that smiles back, but only because it knows that it is out to destroy you.
Yeah. You're getting a level 2 snacksident with goldfish.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Unattended flames and unattended children can wreak havoc on any number of things.
Correct.
So anyway, going back to this project, we were going to do the grilling version, ended up going with the kitchen version. And the original design had a tiled surface. So there's like a wider main work area that's kind of counter height. And then it had a step up bar counter, whatever you want to call it, for serving or entertaining. And those were tiled, big 12-inch square tiles with like I think the edging or nosing tiles on it. And then Logan thought, no way, we're not going to do that. That's too 90s. Yeah. That's too much work. It's funny how that's a sliding scale, too much work.
Yeah.
So he decided on camera to show casting concrete tops for that, which we did, what, 1.5 inch thick, this seems like?
Yeah. Yep.
About
1.5 or 2 inch. Yeah.
Yeah. And we did it. Worked out great. I think they look fine. They just kind of have that flat gray look to them.
Yeah.
Which I know you can tint it and blah, 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 but we did not do that for this. However, the two concrete counter pieces are extremely heavy, as you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been challenging to film around those in working on this project. And then with Logan being out, having to finish up some of these parts. And as part of the arrangement with this project, this one's going to live at Logan's house. So it seems like we're going to be painting it for him and then sending it out. He's going to need, I don't know, a sky crane or an engine hoist.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this pickup on site or do we deliver it to his driveway? Do we have something big enough?
Right. Yeah. It's going to have to go in parts, I think.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it is a cool project. It uses those really humongous, what are they called? Timber lock screws for attaching the main structural components. They were like 8 inches long or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure the reasoning for them to be quite so long.
Just to show the wood who's boss.
Yeah.
Like, we're not playing around here.
Yeah. You know what you did.
Because they're not much bigger, like diameter wise, than like, say, a number 10 screw.
Right.
Like, they're just long. So.
I'll put a photo and a link to them in the show notes page. They also, some of the smaller components are joined with pocket screws, and we used some of the bigger Craig pocket screws for that now, which was kind of fun as well.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, got that one wrapped up, and then we're working on an episode for 2 table saw jigs. Chris filmed his segment on a tenoning jig for the table saw, which I think that particular tenoning jig is one of the better ones that we've shown. It seems like every time we do it, we change something and make it a little easier to use or a little bit more capacity, or not sure how to describe that, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, which it's called a tenoning jig, but a lot of times we're just making cuts on the ends of boards and need a way to do it. And a lot of times we'll just put a tall auxiliary fence on the table saw fence and kind of slide it and stuff. But this makes it a lot safer and easier. Yeah,
because the workpiece is more immobilized, and you're just moving. It's in a way kind of like a crosscut sled, where you're securing a piece to something else and then sliding that across the blade instead of just the piece itself. So that would be a question that I have for all the table saw folk out there is, do you have a tenoning jig and how often do you use it? Because it seems like they were really popular for a long time. Delta made, and then there were knockoffs of it, the cast iron tenoning jigs that, weigh 1,000 pounds and whatever, but people were pretty devoted to them.
Yeah, I remember those. I think we had the Delta, and did we have a Powermatic one at one
Yeah,
point.
Powermatic came out with one a handful of years ago that was really cool. That had indexing to be able to size it to, say, like a hollow chisel mortiser bit, so that you could index the cuts that way. And I think one of our previous versions of a table saw tenoning jig worked on that principle as well, which again is a nice way to do it, so that you basically can automatically set it up for specific sizes of tenons.
Which, yeah, like you mentioned, they were pretty heavy duty pieces of equipment, which I'm guessing that they were pretty expensive then.
Yeah.
If they were that heavy duty, but it doesn't seem like they need to be. And they're like, this one was very simple to make, not a lot of hardware. So a lot cheaper to just make one, I would think.
Right. I think so. And I think one of the problems that I had with the commercial ones, and maybe it's because it was, we had a Delta one, but ended up using it on Powermatic saws or whatever, is that it seemed like you could get it set up for like one side of the cut, but if you wanted to keep it in the same orientation and just shift it over far enough to make the opposite side, like there wasn't enough adjustment capacity on it.
Yeah.
So you'd have to like move index pins or whatever, or move the miter bar to a different set of hole locations or something like that. That just felt clumsy. Like it was just not, it was almost, but not quite.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing like we've obviously went through a lot of different brands of table saws, like how different the placement of the miter gauge slots compared to like where the blade is on all the saws. You'd think it would be like somewhat standard, but it's just like all over the place.
Right.
So
yeah, somewhat standard, where you think that you're just off by less than an inch, but some of them can be 2 inches or more, and it's just a weird, like, how did they decide where those miter slots should be and why? What was the reasoning?
Yeah. Answer us.
Yeah.
In the
that's
comments.
What we want to know. Right.
Or
all
below.
The table saw
Answer
manufacturing. Yeah. Perfect.
We know you're listening, table saw manufacturers. We're coming for you.
Because that's the frustrating part, is you dial in a crosscut sled or whatever, and then you upgrade your saw, and then you're kind of hosed. You either have to remake the whole thing or adjust it, which ends up with its own set of problems of doing that. I think I did that like 3 different times on a crosscut sled that I had. It's aggravating. Especially if you have a job site saw with the like little narrow 5/8 inch wide miter tracks, and then you get to a bigger saw and it's, oh, thanks.
These are our problems.
Yeah, these are pressing
struggling
world issues. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know how many episodes we have left now for this season 2.
I think we have to finish up the other jig and the 2 table saw jigs, and then we have your walnut credenza.
Oh, yeah.
Be a bigger project, and then we have the tips episode, which pretty much shoots itself.
Right.
I mean,
in all senses of that word.
That's just the fun, silly one.
Yeah, we used to do a tips episode early on in the seasons, and they were really pretty popular ones for obvious reasons. They're kind of short little segments and things that are universally practical, or at least curiosities, right. I think. And then we got away for a little bit, and I think we're bring it back periodically just to freshen things up. It's kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So what do you have on your plate for design work then?
I tried getting out of doing a gift box project. I tried to pass the buck on that, but it came back to me. The next issue that we're working on is the would be like the November issue, like around Christmas
Oh, sure.
time. So we need to have a gift project in there. So working on that. A couple issues ago, I was supposed to build a picture frame project, and that ended up turning into a picture frame memory box. So I thought I'd used all my good ideas on that. So, so I started looking at that project and maybe doing. Chris had done like those puzzle boxes.
Oh, yeah.
A while ago, so I was like, oh, maybe we need to revisit a different style of puzzle box, because those are always fun to give as gifts, like, you know, put cash or gift card or small gift in the puzzle box and watch people struggle.
Right.
Because that's the gift that keeps on giving, really. Is bringing pain to others.
Yeah.
On the holidays. So to family, friends,
loved ones. Yep.
So,
that's the
so
true definition of love.
Yes, it is. Shared struggle.
All right. Well, that's kind of cool.
Those are always small boxes, gift projects, puzzle, like that kind of thing is always popular. So, but
yeah, those are kind of cool. And it's funny to be thinking like, here we are recording this in the last week of May, to be thinking about Christmas stuff already seems a little bizarre.
Yeah.
Especially for a publishing schedule.
But it's a good time to get on it. Because usually by the time we publish that stuff November, it's like, it's too late now to start on it now. But next year, get started on it for, you know.
Yeah, I did a class for the Des Moines Woodworkers group on making the finger joint jig from ShopNotes, the router one with the different size plywood or hardwood keys on there, and showed people how to. So we went through the process of building that jig, making all of those keys, and then the last class period we talked about setting it up and using it and cutting some sample joints, and then I firmly believe it. Like when you have a jig that's pretty easy to use like that one, it's a great opportunity to make Christmas gifts and crank them out fast, because you can have the jig basically set up for one, and you could do a variety of different types of things, but using the same sort of foundation. And I did that last year using that jig, where I just made 5 or 6 different box bodies essentially, and then changed the lid or the materials or something like that, and it works great. And I think it's the same way with like the puzzle boxes that Chris did. Like once you had those router table setups dialed in, it really didn't matter whether you were making 1 box or 4. You know, the time was spent in the setup.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to go, I mean, it's pretty small too. So you can get a lot of them done in not much material and time. So you might as well do a ton in one.
This episode of the ShopNotes Podcast is brought to you by Grizzly Industrial, purveyors of fine woodworking machinery since 1983. Buy direct and save at grizzly.com. All right, so I'd like to know if anybody out there has been thinking about Christmas stuff yet, or if they have any other gifts that they've been working on. Because, you know, this time of year is also the like wedding, graduation sort of season. If you've been working on any projects that way too, those are always kind of fun to see. Personally, I've been picked back up on a carved sign that had set aside for a little while. For those of you watching on the YouTubes, it's right there, is the one that Chris designed a few years ago, and Steve Johnson built in the shop or made. I'm doing a version out of white pine, and I'm electing to do it all with hand tools, just because that sounded fun to me, and it has been. It's been very enjoyable. But like I said, I've had it set off to the side for a little while, I think because we had company here in the studio, so I didn't want it just sitting around. And just magazine stuff kind of gets in the way. It's kind of one of my lunchtime projects, but I've been picking back up on it, and I don't have much farther to go. I just have a little bit left to do on excavating the remaining word letters and then start the detail and shaping process, getting it ready for the painting. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting to be closing in on that.
Yeah, one good thing about it seems like the carving project is like you can go pick on it, take a break, come back. It's not like a project where you're making joinery or whatever. You have to okay, where was I? And I got to get everything out, set up the table saw or router, and you just kind of go over your carving tools and work on it for a little bit, and then you can drop it and come back. And so that's the good thing about that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That does make it, that's a very strong point, because that's what I have done is I have a tool bag that I keep some of my carving tools in. So it's really easy for me to take them home with me for using in my shop there or bring them here. And then I just can go over at it and need a screen break or something and just poke away at it and make some progress. And it's really easy to see what the next step is and things like that. So yeah, good call. Maybe we all need those kind of projects where it's easy to pick up.
Therapeutic thing where it's just like, I'm just going to work on this for a little bit and I need to get everything out and put it away. And
what I like about the hand tool part of it is that any of the debris that I make are usually larger chunks. So they just kind of stay right there. There's no dust floating around. Other than mallet strikes, you or Becky or, other people have been in here and it's not super distracting, I don't believe.
Yeah.
So that part's cool. Mm-hmm. I'll put a photo of that on the show notes page as well on the progress on there. So I'm excited to see how this will turn out. It's funny when you copy something or try to, whether you're following a plan or, making a sign like this. I'm using the same templates that Steve used, but I know that it's going to be different looking just because I'm doing it and not Steve and whatever. So it's kind of fun to see how just a natural style develops just by different people working on it. So there you go. One of the other things, I think we've talked about this earlier, is years ago, Popular Woodworking magazine hosted Woodworking in America shows in different formats and in different venues around the country. And there's several things. Hosting an event like that is a lot of work. They're a lot of fun, but they're a lot of work. So between that and financial issues that the parent company was having, they stopped doing them. And then Active Interest Media picked up Popular Woodworking from a bankruptcy sale in, what was that, 2019? Something like that?
Sure. Sounds right.
Is it the direct cause of COVID? I don't know, but it also seems very coincidental.
Mm-hmm. It didn't help, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, we had talked about, because people constantly ask Logan, as the face of Popular Woodworking, if they'll ever come back. 2019, we also hosted an event in Des Moines, Woodsmith Workshop, where it was a weekend event that we held at at Living History Farms here, and it was a lot of fun. Again, a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And I get asked repeatedly, when are we going to do the same thing again? And now that we've joined forces Devastator style with the Constructicons into something much larger, we have that opportunity because Fine Woodworking with us hosted Fine Woodworking live events, mostly in the Northeast, but also in Florida. They did a couple in California, all that kind of stuff. Now we have that opportunity again, and we're going to be hosting an event in October 11th and 12th, I believe. It's a Friday, Saturday in October here in Des Moines. We've picked out a venue. It's a renovated former middle school, Franklin Middle School or Franklin Junior High. You can look that up on the internets and learn more about it. That was part of the Des Moines public school system and now is kind of a multi-use entertainment and meeting place. So we'll be in the original school's auditorium, a number of the classrooms, including the old wood shop, which will be kind of fun. We're going to have some demonstrators brought in, people that you've recognized from the pages of Popular Woodworking and Fine Woodworking magazine, as well as people from the staff of all three titles, Fine Woodworking, Woodsmith, and Popular Woodworking. ShopNotes too, 4 magazines. So,
yeah. Yes. Speaking of the venue being a former middle school, and we've been in it and toured it when we planned to have an event there a couple of years ago. If you went to a middle school or high school that was built in, say, the 50s, 60s, 70s, when you walk into that building, like all of your school memories are going to come flooding back because it still feels like that with the lockers and the classrooms, throughout the building. You'll get emotions, I'm sure. Whether you had a good school experience or a bad school experience, just be warned. It feels like a school built in the 60s, 70s, because that's what it is.
Yep.
So.
I would agree, because it even has that era school smell to it in all the right ways.
Like the faint smell of asbestos, maybe? Yeah. I don't know. Lead? I don't know.
Intimidation.
Yep. Nervous sweat. Acne medication. I don't know.
Yeah. Axe body spray, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's a really cool facility. Like John said, when we toured it, it was kind of amazing on how triggering that was to a certain extent, because it just, each classroom had the built-in kind of birchy yellow paneled, storage doors and closets and lockers and the blackboards and all of that stuff. I kind of expected to walk up to one of the lockers, open it up, and find my stuff in there still.
Yeah, there's there's my letter jacket.
Yeah, even though I didn't go to school in Des Moines at all. It just felt very much at home. Super cool. So, very shortly we're going to have the sign-up page set up for that as well. You'll be able to check that out, see. We're still working on the full list of presenters, which is the challenging part here, but we're going to get some pretty cool exhibitors in as well. I believe Logan's going to be doing a sawmilling demo for that. So we're going to have a mill out in the parking lot, cutting up some logs, talking about that kind of thing. So stay tuned. That's coming right on the heels, less than a month later, from our tour to England that we're going to be doing. I'm going to be hosting that along with Anissa from Fine Woodworking. She and I will be shepherding a group of people around to different sites, starting in London and then working through southern England. A couple of there's a chair museum and a boxwood plantation, which, do they use sheepdogs to keep the boxwood herded? I don't remember. That was... Yeah. Anyway, so they're raising, I don't know how many head of boxwood that they have there. In Iowa, they usually do that in a confined feeding lot for the boxwood.
So this is free-range boxwood.
It is, yeah, free-range boxwood. native English boxwood instead of like an invasive kind of species there. So again, I'll put a link for that tour in the show notes page. You can find out more about that. I think that'll be a really fun trip. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be September, so it's off season. We're going to be avoiding a lot of the crowds. We'll have places to ourselves, some really cool demos to see, a different look at woodworking than what we're used to here. So all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. The thing about like the tour and the, what do you call the thing?
Live event.
Live
woodworking
event.
Woodworking in America.
Yeah. Once you get past all like the cost and the work it is to organize and just get together, it's like like us that work here are just finding other woodworkers we want to hang out with, instead like bringing in presenters and like doing the things we want to do. So like, hey, everybody else, why don't you just join us? We're going to do this regardless. We're going to hang out and have fun with the people coming in. But why don't you guys,
come along for the ride.
Yeah. We're just, a bunch of woodworkers getting together and with presenters and tool manufacturers that come in. And
yeah. I think that was when we did the one in 2019, the live event. I think that, to your point, it was fun to get together with other woodworkers, talk to other people, and the presentations were fantastic and fun to do. But in between and afterward, there were all the like questions and sharing ideas, and everybody holding their phones out of, scrolling through, projects that they've made and that kind of stuff. And it made it really cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a family reunion.
Right. Yeah, because it seems like all the, we make videos, we make, magazine articles, like we're just throwing that out. We, to people, they're reading, like we don't get as much interaction. Some people email or call or, whatever. But it's good to have the interaction and see what other people are working on and have all that. So it's a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there you go. That's what we got going on. Lots of stuff. It's going to be a busy summer. We're also going to be working on, if you're connected with Woodsmith or Popular Woodworking or Fine Woodworking, you've seen emails on some of the e-learning classes that we've been doing on all three of those titles. We actually have a few of them in store for the fall, some brand new ones. Chris and Mark actually are going to tag team a course on making the new ShopNotes CNC machine. So they're going to walk through the process of constructing the machine and then get into some of the details that are harder to explain in a magazine article, things like the wiring, bringing the machine to life, and actually making a project or two out of it. So it'll talk about a lot of those kind of things. Get a chance to dive deep into the weeds on that. So that'll be a cool one. And then I'm going to be doing a class on something that I've brought up on the podcast here a few times, things that I call wood insert joinery, rather than like dovetails or mortise and tenon or something like that. It's power tool based. We're going to be talking about things like dowels and splines, biscuits, dominoes, loose tenons, all of that. So I think it's a really efficient and effective way to build projects, but we don't build projects to be efficient and effective necessarily. It's fun being in the shop. And I think those kind of techniques lend themselves to a certain amount of playfulness and joy in the shop. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed using all of those. So there you go. A little bit of a promo episode today, but I mean, this is what we do. This is
got to pay the bills. Got to keep the lights on.
Got to keep the lights on. Yep. So, want to say thanks to all the listeners of the ShopNotes podcast for comments that you send in and for supporting us. And if you enjoy the show, the reason that it exists is because of the magazines and the tours and the events and the classes that we do. So your support in subscribing and purchasing and attending those classes is what helps us be able to do this show and to make the amount of stuff that we do here and the rest on YouTube, free and available to the wider woodworking community. So special thanks to Grizzly Tool and Grizzly Industrial, my bad, for supporting today's episode and also for supporting the TV show. You want to check out their lineup of tools that runs the gamut from small benchtop tools that are super versatile to industrial size machinery. You can check it out at grizzly.com. We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye.